Most people today feel like they cannot focus for more than a few minutes at a time. You sit down to work, read, or even just think, and within moments your mind has wandered somewhere else. This is not just a personal weakness or lack of discipline. Your attention is genuinely more fragmented than it was even 10 years ago, and the cost of this fragmentation is much higher than most people realize. The average person now checks their phone over 150 times a day. Every notification, every scroll, every time you switch from one app to another, your brain is being trained to expect constant stimulation. Over time, this rewires your nervous system to stay in a low-level state of alertness. You become less able to enter deep focus and more prone to anxiety, mental fatigue, and a vague sense of restlessness that never quite goes away. Ancient traditions understood this problem long before smartphones existed. They saw attention as something precious that needed protection. In many spiritual and philosophical traditions, the ability to hold attention steadily was considered one of the highest forms of inner strength. They developed specific practices to train this capacity because they knew that a scattered mind leads to a scattered life. They understood that where your attention goes, your energy and your life follow. Modern neuroscience now confirms what these traditions observed through direct experience. When your attention is constantly pulled in different directions, your nervous system struggles to return to a regulated state. This affects not just your productivity, but your emotional stability, your relationships, and even your physical health over time. The constant context switching keeps your body in a mild stress response, preventing the deep restoration that only happens when your attention is allowed to rest. The real cost of fragmented attention goes far beyond getting less work done. When you cannot focus deeply, you lose access to the parts of yourself that create meaning, solve complex problems, and experience genuine peace. Many people today feel a vague sense of emptiness or low-level anxiety, not realizing that one of the main causes is the constant fragmentation of their attention. They try to fix it with more information, more stimulation, or more productivity hacks, but these often make the problem worse. In the coming chapters, we will explore how ancient traditions protected their attention in environments that were far less stimulating than ours, why modern life makes this so difficult, and what practical steps you can take to rebuild your capacity for deep focus. But it begins with recognizing that this problem is real and that it is costing you more than you probably realize. Your attention is one of your most valuable resources, and right now it is being quietly taken from you in small pieces throughout the day. Every notification you receive triggers a small stress response in your body. Your heart rate increases slightly, your attention narrows toward the source of the interruption, and your nervous system shifts into a state of readiness. Most people experience dozens of these micro-stress responses every single day without realizing what is happening to them. They think of notifications as harmless or even helpful, but their nervous system experiences them as repeated small threats. This constant activation prevents your nervous system from spending enough time in the rest and repair state. Over weeks and months, this creates a background level of dysregulation that many people have come to accept as normal. You might not feel panicked or overwhelmed, but you also never feel fully at ease. You exist in a kind of middle ground where you are never truly relaxed and never fully focused. This state has become so common that many people no longer recognize it as a problem. Ancient traditions were very careful about what they allowed into their awareness. They understood that the mind becomes shaped by whatever it repeatedly pays attention to. They would not have welcomed dozens of interruptions throughout the day because they knew how damaging that would be to inner stability. They valued periods of unbroken attention because they knew that deep insight and genuine peace require sustained focus. Modern research on the nervous system shows that frequent context switching and notification checking keeps the sympathetic nervous system mildly activated. This means your body is constantly preparing for threats that never actually arrive.
The result is higher baseline anxiety, poorer sleep quality, reduced emotional resilience, and a nervous system that struggles to return to calm even when the environment is safe. Many people try to solve this by becoming better at managing their time or using productivity apps, but the real issue is not time management, it is nervous system management. Until you reduce the number of times your attention is forcibly pulled away from what you are doing, your nervous system will continue to pay the price. The notifications are not just information, they are repeated signals to your body that something urgent might be happening, and your body responds accordingly. In the next chapter, we will look at how ancient traditions protected their attention in environments that were far less stimulating than ours, and what we can learn from their approach to guarding this precious resource.
Ancient traditions across many cultures placed enormous value on protecting attention. They understood that where your attention goes, your life goes with it. In Buddhist traditions, training attention was considered one of the most important spiritual practices. In Stoic philosophy, maintaining focus on what truly matters was seen as essential for living a good life. These traditions developed specific practices and ways of living that protected attention because they knew how easily it could be scattered and how costly that scattering would be. They did not have smartphones or constant notifications, but they still faced distractions. They dealt with the demands of daily life, relationships, work, and unexpected events. What made them different was that they treated attention as something sacred that needed deliberate protection. They created periods of silence, solitude, and focused practice. They were careful about what they read, what they listened to, and who they spent time with, because they understood that these things shaped the quality of their attention. Modern life has made this much more difficult. We are surrounded by devices and systems that are specifically designed to capture and hold our attention for as long as possible. The average person is exposed to thousands of advertisements and notifications every week. Most of these are designed to trigger emotional responses, curiosity, fear, desire, or outrage. When your attention is constantly being pulled in these directions, it becomes harder and harder to direct it toward what actually matters to you. The ancient approach was not about rejecting the world. It was about being intentional about what was allowed to enter their awareness. They understood that attention is a limited resource and that spending it wisely is one of the most important skills a person can develop. In the next chapter, we will explore how digital minimalism can be understood as a modern form of this ancient practice of protecting attention. Digital minimalism is often presented as a productivity strategy or a way to get more done, but at its core, it is a form of nervous system care. When you reduce the number of notifications, apps, and digital inputs in your life, you are giving your nervous system fewer reasons to stay in a state of low-level activation. You are creating the conditions for your body to spend more time in rest and recovery. Most people approach digital minimalism from a place of guilt or overwhelm. They feel like they're wasting too much time on their phones and want to regain control. This is a good starting point, but it often leads to short-term changes that do not last. A more sustainable approach comes from understanding that your digital environment directly affects your nervous system. Every time you check your phone out of habit, you are interrupting your attention and triggering a small stress response. Over time, these interruptions add up. Ancient traditions would have understood this immediately. They were careful about what they allowed into their awareness because they knew it shaped their inner state. They would not have carried a device in their pocket that could interrupt them at any moment with news, messages, or entertainment. They valued periods of unbroken attention because they knew that deep thinking, genuine connection, and inner peace require sustained focus. Reducing digital noise is not about rejecting technology. It is about using it intentionally rather than reactively. It is about creating boundaries that protect your attention and your nervous system. When you do this consistently, you begin to notice that you feel calmer,
more focused, and more present in your actual life. The constant low-level stress that many people have come to accept as normal starts to fade. In the next chapter, we will explore how spending time in nature can accelerate this process of restoring attention and nervous system balance.
There is a well-researched phenomenon called attention restoration theory that explains why spending time in nature feels so different from spending time in digital environments. According to this theory, natural environments allow our directed attention to rest and recover, while urban and digital environments constantly demand it. This is not just a feeling, it is a measurable physiological process that affects your nervous system and your cognitive capacity. When you are in a natural setting, your attention is engaged in a gentle, involuntary way. You notice the movement of leaves, the sound of water, the changing light. This kind of attention does not require effort. It allows the part of your brain responsible for focused, directed attention to recover. In contrast, when you are looking at screens, reading emails, or scrolling through social media, you are using directed attention almost constantly. This is why you often feel mentally drained after spending time online, even if you have not been doing anything particularly difficult. Ancient traditions spent much more time in natural environments than most people do today. They walked, worked, and meditated outdoors. They understood, through experience, that being in nature had a calming and clarifying effect on the mind. They did not have the scientific language we have now, but they observed the same phenomenon that researchers have documented in recent decades. For many people today, spending time in nature feels like a luxury or something they do on vacation, but it may be one of the most effective ways to restore attention and regulate the nervous system in a world that constantly pulls us in different directions. Even short periods of time in natural settings can make a noticeable difference in how focused and calm you feel afterward. In the next chapter, we will look at why multitasking makes this restoration even more difficult.
Multitasking is often praised as a valuable skill in modern life. People say they are good at doing several things at once, and many workplaces reward the appearance of being busy with multiple projects. But from the perspective of your nervous system, multitasking is not efficient or impressive. It is a source of constant low-level stress that prevents you from ever fully focusing or fully resting. When you switch between tasks, your brain has to reorient itself each time. This takes mental energy and creates what researchers call attention residue. Part of your attention remains stuck on the previous task even as you try to focus on the new one. Over time, this constant switching trains your nervous system to stay in a state of divided attention. You become less able to give your full presence to anything and more prone to feeling scattered and overwhelmed. Ancient traditions valued single-pointed attention. Whether in meditation, work, or conversation, they practiced doing one thing at a time with full presence. They understood that divided attention leads to divided results and a divided inner state. They would have seen modern multitasking not as a skill, but as a form of self-interruption that weakens the mind over time. The cost of multitasking goes beyond reduced productivity. When your attention is constantly divided, your nervous system struggles to return to a regulated state. You may feel busy, but you rarely feel truly engaged or at peace. Many people try to solve this by becoming better at multitasking, but the real solution is to do less of it. In the next chapter, we will explore how creating intentional attention sanctuaries in your day can help restore focus and nervous system balance.
An attention sanctuary is a period of time or a physical space where you protect your attention from unnecessary interruptions. It can be as simple as 30 minutes in the morning with your phone in another room, or a specific corner of your home where you only do focused work or quiet reflection. The key is that during this time, you deliberately reduce the number of things competing for your attention. Ancient traditions created similar structures in their daily lives. They had times for meditation, study, and work that were protected from casual interruption.
They understood that deep focus requires an environment that supports it. They did not try to focus in the middle of constant activity and noise. They created conditions that made focus more natural. Most people today try to focus while surrounded by potential distractions. Their phone is nearby, notifications are on, and they are available to respond to messages at any moment. This makes deep focus much more difficult than it needs to be. Creating attention sanctuaries is not about being rigid or antisocial. It is about recognizing that your attention is a limited resource that deserves protection. You do not need to overhaul your entire schedule to benefit from this practice. Even 1 or 2 protected periods each day can make a significant difference in how focused and calm you feel. Over time, these sanctuaries train your nervous system that it is safe to focus deeply and that not every moment needs to be available for interruption. In the next chapter, we will explore how to actively rebuild your capacity for deep focus after it has been weakened by years of fragmentation.
If your attention has been fragmented for a long time, you cannot expect to suddenly become capable of hours of deep focus. Like any capacity, the ability to focus deeply needs to be rebuilt gradually. This is not a failure of willpower. It is a reflection of how your nervous system and brain have adapted to constant stimulation and interruption. Ancient traditions understood that training attention takes time and consistent practice. They did not expect beginners to sit in meditation for hours. They started with shorter periods and gradually increased the duration as the capacity developed. They treated attention training as a skill that could be strengthened through deliberate practice, not as something that should come naturally in a distracted world. Modern research supports this gradual approach. Studies on attention training show that consistent practice, even in small amounts, can improve focus over time. The key is to start with periods that are challenging but not overwhelming, and to gradually increase the duration as your capacity grows. This approach respects the current state of your nervous system while gently expanding its capabilities. Many people try to force deep focus through sheer effort, only to become frustrated when they cannot sustain it. A more effective approach is to create the conditions that make focus more natural, and then practice in those conditions consistently. Over time, your nervous system learns that it is safe to focus deeply, and the capacity grows. In the next chapter, we will look at how emerging technologies, particularly AI, are likely to make protecting attention even more important in the years ahead.
Artificial intelligence is already changing how we interact with information and technology. In the coming years, AI systems will become even more effective at capturing and holding our attention. They will be able to predict what will keep us engaged, generate personalized content at scale, and create increasingly immersive digital experiences. This presents both risks and opportunities for those who want to protect their attention and nervous system. On one hand, AI could make the attention economy even more extractive than it already is. If algorithms become better at keeping people scrolling, watching, and clicking, the pressure on individual attention will increase. On the other hand, AI could also be used to create tools that help people protect their attention, filter information more intelligently, and support deeper focus rather than constant distraction. Ancient traditions developed their practices in response to the challenges of their time. They did not have AI, but they understood that new technologies and cultural changes often come with hidden costs to inner stability. They would likely approach AI with the same careful discernment they applied to other developments in their eras. They would ask whether a particular tool supports or undermines the kind of attention they valued. For those who want to maintain deep focus and nervous system regulation in an AI-saturated world, the principles remain the same. Protect your attention deliberately.
Create periods of unbroken focus. Be intentional about what you allow into your awareness. These practices become even more valuable as the external environment becomes more effective at capturing attention. In the final chapter, we will bring these ideas together into a practical approach for protecting your nervous system in a hyper-connected era.
Throughout this pillar, we've explored how attention and the nervous system are deeply connected, why modern life makes protecting attention so difficult, and what we can learn from ancient traditions that valued this capacity highly. The core message is simple but important. Your attention is not just a productivity tool, it is a nervous system resource, and how you direct it shapes your inner state more than most people realize. Ancient traditions understood that attention is precious and limited. They developed practices and ways of living that protected it because they knew that a scattered mind leads to a scattered life. Modern life has made this protection much more difficult, but the underlying principles remain the same. Be intentional about what you allow into your awareness. Create periods of unbroken attention. Reduce unnecessary interruptions. Spend time in environments that support rather than deplete your focus. These are not just productivity tips, they are nervous system care practices. When you protect your attention, you give your nervous system more opportunities to return to a regulated state. When you allow it to be constantly fragmented, you keep your body in a mild stress response that becomes your new normal. Over time, the difference between these two approaches compounds into very different qualities of life. The future will likely bring even more sophisticated tools for capturing attention. Artificial intelligence, immersive technologies, and increasingly personalized digital experiences will make it even easier to lose hours without realizing where they went. In this environment, the ability to deliberately direct and protect your attention will become even more valuable. Thank you for exploring this pillar with me. If these ideas have been helpful, I would appreciate it if you liked this video and subscribed for more grounded explorations of nervous system wisdom. Protecting your attention is one of the most practical things you can do for your long-term well-being in a hyper-connected world. I will see you in the next pillar.